I want to start off this conversation by saying I am a Christian. I go to church every Sunday. I believe in God. I've seen his work, and I don't want that to necessarily be a basis for the discussion. So we can both agree that a fetus has viability outside of the womb at 20 weeks. We've seen it happen. We have not seen a fetus be viable outside of the womb before 20 weeks, right? Okay, so getting into that, we can go back to someone who is brain dead or in a long-term vegetative state, right? They cannot live without the life mechanisms that are helping them breathe, like their ventilators, if they're on dialysis, if they're in kidney failure, stuff like that, right? So could you make the same argument that a fetus that is living inside of a mother's womb cannot live outside, relating it to the life-sustaining like stuff that is keeping a person alive if they're in a coma or something?
Right, not to rehash the prior argument, but you understand the moral difference. A 17-week-old allowed to continue to develop will become self and independent, where an individual in a vegetative state will almost assuredly not. They're two separate things. Secondly, it goes back to the question, define viability. There are babies right now that are 27 weeks in the NICU, which is the neonatal intensive care unit, that have all sorts of compartments all around them. Is it morally justified to pull the plug on a baby in NICU?
So most women, like going to abortion, most women are not getting late-term abortions if it is something that they want. People who are getting late-term abortions are people where the fetus is either like already dead, so getting like kind of a miscarriage.
So that's not an abortion, just so we're clear. The removal of a carcass is not an abortion, but yeah.
An instance where a woman is getting an abortion because if she has this baby, she will die.
Yeah, but why would they not be counseled to get a C-section?
If someone is gonna die from giving birth, whether that's
not, C-section is not the traditional vaginal birth. It's way safer and quicker than an abortion.
It might be safer, but there are still instances.
It might be safer. You disagree? So then, shouldn't we counsel women to get the safer option? That
there is still a chance that they're going to die, though.
Well, there's a chance they could die if they get an abortion too. Abortion is actually the deadlier of all the options for a woman in a crisis post 20-week situation. But the abortionists make more money, and it's easier to just terminate the life. For example, if you have the uterine wall break at 28 weeks, serious problem. You have an option: go get an abortion or go get a C-section. Which one is actually quicker?
An abortion, but
No. C-section's way quicker.
But what
like
I'm
you
saying
could go
is,
right now to Columbia General and you could get a C-section in like 15 minutes. They're primed for an abortion. Is actually like a 9-hour prep procedure. The point being is that you're talking about a very isolated set of cases. However, even with those isolated set of cases, we are led to believe that abortion will save the mother's life when there's an alternative cesarean section on the table that these moms are almost never told about.
So then the issue is educating women on their options. So here's my thing.
Which OBs should be doing, but they're not.
If there's a woman who, like you said, 27 weeks, uterine wall breaks, most likely that woman wants to have this baby. They have carried it to 27 weeks. They didn't get an early term abortion before the fetus was viable. They want to have this child. So if they aren't given this option, then what are they supposed to do?
You are not stuck if your pregnancy goes wrong in the 20 weeks. In fact, a C-section is safer for you and safer for the baby, like 99.9% out of 100 times when that terrible situation happens. The problem is that the OBGYN industry will present abortion as a much more viable option when it just isn't, because also they don't even factor in the baby's life. It's like, okay, it's just a disposable component here, where our perspective, and I know you might disagree, we should seek to save both lives, both the mother and the child. Where the OBGYN, and that's just how they're medically trained, is first and foremost the doctor for the mother and then the baby second. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I can find middle ground here. I can agree with that. And because, again, I don't think that any woman who's carrying to 27, 28 weeks is wanting to have an abortion. So those options should be, like, educated, and people should be given options.
Fair enough. I agree.
Can we move to early term abortion a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. So is there any instance, whether anything like that, where you would agree with an early term abortion? No. Not a single instance. So, like, a 13-year-old who has no financial stability, can't even get a job because you can't get a job until 14, 15, 16 in the U.S., who cannot support that baby, If it was her father, then she has no support from her parents. What is she supposed to do in that situation?
You could put the baby up for adoption. But outside of going into the extreme specifics of your case, which does happen, it goes down to the fundamental question. Is it a baby that she is helping develop in her womb, or is it something else? If it's a baby, then you must have universal human rights applied to that baby, definitionally.
Can you claim a fetus on your taxes? No, you can't. You can claim a 1-year-old. You can claim a 9-month-old.
Actually, that's a great idea. We should actually have child support starting 9 months earlier. So you won me over.
There we go.
But if your point is that our federal tax code reflects abortion laws, then you've made the point. But I guess my question for you, when does life begin?
I think that life begins at birth. And I know you're going to disagree with me on there. But I also believe that, like, once the fetus is viable, if the birth happens at 20 weeks, 21 weeks, then that is a child. But before that, when it does not have, like, all of its functionality to be able to live outside the womb, even in, like, the NICU, then it is not alive. It's not a child.
Babies in the NICU are not alive?
I said when they are able to live.
I know, but what's the moral difference, though? They have machines, they have assistants.
You cannot have a 15-week-old fetus and have it live outside of the womb. Bottom line, we don't have the technology to do that.
So at one point you were a fetus, right? Mm-hmm. Were you alive when you were a fetus?
No.
Really?
I don't believe that I was alive. I didn't have thought.
Okay, so I do want to go back to one component of your argument. You talked about that you are a Christian. So in the book of Luke, it says that John the Baptist leapt in the womb when it came near Jesus Christ. It's the word brephos for baby. Was John the Baptist and Jesus a baby or a fetus in the womb?
I think he was a fetus.
So Jesus was not alive in the womb?
I think that he had his, like, functionality, but he wouldn't have been able to live outside of the womb.
How do you leap if you're not alive?
Babies move all the time. It's instinct. It's not like... It's the same way. It's not like something that they're thinking about doing.
Right. So my 6-month-old has a lot of different instincts. When you get a newborn baby, it will wean for its mother's breast. It's not thinking, it's instinct. When you poke a baby in the stomach, it will react. So a baby cannot hunt or gather for itself until it's probably 4 years old. Therefore, it's dependent on the mother, dependent on the father. How is that any different than a baby in utero that needs nutrients from the mother?
Because in utero, right, the mother doesn't have a choice. Whatever they eat, going to the baby. Whatever they drink, going to the baby. All of that. And sure, they're able to give it up for adoption, and then they won't have to worry about it. And our adoption, the system currently is a whole nother issue. But sure, they are able to give up this baby for adoption, and then they don't have to worry about it. But it's having the choice of if you want to nourish that child, go through all of the pain and struggle and everything that comes with being pregnant.
So outside of, would you say we should get rid of all abortions except of?
I think I'm not pro-abortion. I am pro-choice, and ultimately, it's not up to me if she was pregnant and wanted to get an abortion. That shouldn't be my decision, and so I don't think it should be the government.
So therefore,
but I'm not pro-abortion. I don't think that voluntary late-term abortion should be allowed.
I got it. Well, so let me ask you a question. Since you're pro-choice, should a mom be able to choose to abort her baby if she finds out she's having a girl and she wants a boy?
So
you're pro-choice.
I don't think that voluntary late-term abortion should happen.
No,
that's
weeks. Not the question.
So that's what I'm saying. If that's the woman's choice, then that's the woman's choice. And a lot of times that's going to be a discussion.
Wait, hold
on.
But
the thing is, you're saying this, but people don't do that.
Oh, no, they do it all the time. In fact, they do it so much they had to pass a law where people would get genetics tests around 12 to 14 weeks. They would find out they were having a girl, and the incident rate of abortion would spike. So your view of basically developing a child is no different than like customizing a Ford Explorer. It's like, I like this characteristic, but not this characteristic. Do you think it should be legal if you find out your baby's having Down syndrome to terminate your baby?
No.
But you said you're pro-choice. So you're not. So you are getting in the way of a mother's decision. The mom doesn't want to go through the pain of raising a Down syndrome kid. She doesn't want to pay for the Down syndrome kid.
But that's my personal beliefs, not the beliefs of what thing. Again,
No. But I'm saying legally. Should it be legal?
I think if the baby is, and I have a little brother with a lot of special needs. He lives off of oxygen. He's in a wheelchair. I have grown up around kids with special needs, and so I understand that it is so hard for parents, for siblings, for grandparents to go through that. If somebody doesn't think that they're in the financial stability, because children with special needs are a lot of money and they don't get as much support from the government as they should for them. They're a lot of work. They're a lot of time. So if somebody doesn't
So knowing all that, you're actually uniquely positioned to answer the question.
So if somebody doesn't think that they are in the financial position to be able to give this child the best possible life that they could have, if like they are poor, if it was a thing of or and they don't have support from a partner, I do think that like in those instances I would agree more with giving up for adoption. But again, the adoption like foster care adoption systems aren't built to support children with special needs. They aren't. It is so difficult for children with special needs to get out of the adoption system. And so in instances like that, again, I believe it's up to the mother's choice of what she wants to do.
How is your view of up to the mother's choice any different than eugenics?
I don't believe that you should abort based off of, like, my personal beliefs, right?
No, I know,
but
your indifference, the lack of a law, or you advocating for a law, is you basically giving a tacit level of support of it. Because it does happen and it will happen. So we have laws that are a reflection of morality. We actually have a law where it's illegal to abort your baby based on Down syndrome. It's a law. Mm-hmm. You would support getting rid of that, basically.
I wouldn't support getting rid of it if it's already in place. My thing is when we had Roe v. Wade, which gave women reproductive freedom to have abortions, especially if they were deemed medically necessary, if they were in cases of, and we moved back on those to get rid of them. We didn't have them, and then we had them, and then they were taken away.
Do you think an abortion is a tragedy?
It depends on the person. If someone got, and they probably are going to carry so much resentment toward this child, and I'm not saying every case, some women won't carry resentment toward this child, but if you're carrying resentment towards this being due to how it came to be, then...
So then just murder it. Essentially. So somebody in this audience was conceived in... Can you tell me who?
Was it you?
No, but someone is. Can you tell me who?
No.
Do they have a big R on their head?
No.
So wait, they're just the same type of human being that we are? So
yeah,
they're indistinguishable, so they get God-granted human rights regardless of their method of conception?
But that's like, yes, sure, the child is going to be the same or whatever, but we don't know how they're going to end up being raised because, again, the mother might not have the support. She might not have this. She might not be able to give them life.
I'm curious, though, how is it morally justifiable from a Christian worldview to, I would say murder, but you would say terminate a life, even if you're not sure how their life is going to work out? By what moral biblical standard is that justifiable?
I think people should have their own right to choose.
Okay,
we
got
have
it.
a different moral opinion
No, I got it.
of what
So
a fetus is.
what species is the fetus?
I mean, if it is from a human, it's a human fetus.
So
if it's
then,
from a dolphin, it's a dolphin fetus.
Right,
if it's from an ant, it's an ant fetus.
If it's a human fetus, then wouldn't it have human rights?
But then, they don't have a social security number. You're not able to claim them on your taxes until after they're born.
Again, if your argument is that our U.S. laws are reflective of abortion ethics, you are correct. But I suppose the question, you do know a 3-year-old doesn't have a driver's license either. I mean, at some point we can get towards the documentation argument is a little insane. But a fetus is still a human being, worthy of human rights. And so when you say it's at birth, just understand the cruelty of that argument, that babies that are 28, 29, 30 weeks hear the mother's voice, they move completely, heartbeats, their own DNA. And I suppose the question I would ask, if it isn't your DNA, why should it be your choice?
But what do you mean by that? It is your DNA.
Well, no, it's not. A mother has her own separate DNA.
Yes.
Her baby has different DNA. So why should her DNA should be able to eliminate another set of DNA?
Because it is inside of her.
Your location means nothing. Whether you're inside utero or live in Columbia, South Carolina, you don't get more or less rights based on your location.
Okay, so then take the baby out and have it live in whatever. If it can survive on its own,
No,
it can
I agree.
survive on its own.
That's what the laws should say. Take the baby out the best we can and don't terminate it. That's the pro-life position.
Okay, but if it's at 3 weeks, right? Okay, sure, I don't want to terminate my pregnancy, but we're going to take it out and try to give it the best life it can. It's not going to survive.
Well, at 3 weeks, first of all, you have a moral right to allow that baby to grow, which then goes back to my final point. I disagree, but I think that's valid exceptions. How did the mother get pregnant in the 99% of the other time?
Sometimes it happens by accident.
No,
so
what do you mean by accident? It's not like catching the flu. What do you mean by accident?
condom breaks
Okay,
and
but
whatever.
wait,
like,
but hold
even
on.
if you're using protection, not using protection,
But
whatever.
you made
that's
a
how it
decision to
happens.
have sex, right?
Sure.
You don't have to have sex. It's not like eating
don't.
or showering. So therefore, we as pro-lifers believe you should take responsibility for your own actions and take responsibility for your own orgasms and not eliminate being smaller than you just because a mistake happened. That make sense?
That's probably where we're going to disagree here. So
Yeah, but again, the idea that you should be able to eliminate another human being because something happened that you don't like, I find to be wrong. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you.